All right, welcome back. Here's our GMC tweet of the night from the Pittsburgh Penguins, catching up with an old friend. That's Hornquist being honored before the game today. Met up with a few of his teammates, and he was a big part of that Stanley Cup run. Jeff, you remember those were the glory days. Back in 2015, 16, 17, boy, we had a lot of fun. Things have changed. The Penguins now have lost 4 straight, can't score in the power play 37 straight times. They're just as bad as the Steelers right now, but the Steelers are so popular here that no one's even paying attention to the Penguins right now.
And it's crazy, Richie. You mentioned 37 straight times as if that's an exaggeration. It's not.
No.
They're actually 37 straight times they haven't scored on the power play. Hornquist, come back. They need you. They need you in front of the net. Come on, reunion tour. Put that uniform back on. I guarantee you, if he got on that power play, within the next 4, they would score.
Yeah, speaking of blowing things up and complete overhauls, obviously what both teams are doing right now are not working and haven't worked for a long time. So, I mean, you can't just keep pounding your head against the wall. You got to make a change. You got to do something different. Anything's better than what we have right now. Let's get out to the phone lines. We got Jerry out in Elderton. What's up, Jerry?
Just like to say, Tomlin needs to go.
You know, I know we're hearing this a lot. Look, there's a part of me that agrees with you that I think a change of scenery will do both sides, good. But also, there's a negative side to that too. I mean, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It might not be the same as what happened in Philadelphia.
And you know what, Richie? When I was little, I mean, I remember people. My memories of Chuck Noll were, this old guy's got to go. The old guy's got to go. Didn't matter what he did. That was the mindset. And, for those that covered Bill Cowher or watched Bill Cowher, which did both, I mean, remember those AFC title games he lost, and then he had those 3 straight losing seasons. People wanted Cowher out too, and he was able to survive. He survived through those 3 years when they picked him over Donahoe, and it turned out to be the right decision for the Steelers. Now, in this situation, it might be a little different.
Hey, be careful what you wish for. Everyone wanted Jamie Dixon out, and look what happened to that program. And a similar type situation where I look at him now, but it's been, it was a decade almost. I mean, it seemed like forever before they got back on track, and they were the lowest of lows. And everyone wasn't satisfied with just winning and getting to the tournament. They wanted more.
And Richie, let's be real. The number one thing for them to do, I don't care who your head coach is. Who's your quarterback?
Yeah.
And what kind of system are you running? Those are bigger questions than who your head coach is.
You're right. I would think about making another switch quarterback too. Dave Katanning, how you doing, Dave? Dave, you there?
I just have a comment to make. I used to be of the mindset that Belichick was hands over fist better than Tomlin, but after last night, he actually won and messed up their draft choice position.
Yeah, but I think for someone like Belichick, it's more important to beat Tomlin and the Steelers than maybe the ownership wanted that, but Belichick doesn't want that.
Thank you for that. That was a good laugh on a Friday. I appreciated his humor on that. That's good.
Let's go out to Tom and Jeanette. How you doing, Tom?
Be nuts. There's obviously so many flaws in this team, but one of the things you're hearing the most about today was that false start or the phantom false start.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked to me, the way Harvin was celebrating, it looked to me like the Steelers tried to pull some shenanigans. Maybe he moved his head on purpose to try to get him to jump. It worked. Now, in the estimation of the official, it was abrupt. Now, was that the right call?
All right, Tom, look, I get what you're saying, and I don't know, Jeff, if you were in that. I interviewed Christian Kuntz yesterday, and we talked a little bit about this. And, they weren't trying to catch them. I mean, obviously, they were trying to catch them off guard, but they weren't trying to pull anything tricky here, any shenanigans. They were practicing this, and the way Christian explained it to me was you can't make an abrupt movement. And he thought the guy moved even before his head picked up, and he did pick his head up slowly. I mean, we've seen this not called and called the other way all the time. And here's what I would like to say. You know, within a call that's so important, let's look back to San Diego a few years ago when the Steelers lost to them with that false start that wasn't called. I think these need to be reviewable like stuff is reviewable in hockey. Go to New York. I mean, if there's an critical offsides, I think those plays have to be reviewable.
Only if they're done quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you would immediately look at that and within 30 seconds you're changing it. Not the 4-minute reviews where you're studying the Zapruder tape where it's frame by frame by frame. Like it can't be that because then you might actually see the decline.
One
of the
person in New York that's watching it saying, nope.
But it's a horrible call, and I'll tell you how you knew it was a horrible call, because no one on the Patriots sidelines thought it wasn't offsides. Like their heads were down, they thought we screwed up. Not even one guy like pointing like, hey, he moved his head. They knew they screwed up, and then somehow they got bailed out. Now, that's to assume that the Steelers would have gone down and scored, but they should have been given the opportunity because New England screwed up and the refs bailed them on them.
Speaking of opportunities, we'll get to more calls here in a second, but, I mean, you got to question what they did on 3rd and 4th down there with 2:05 left. You run the ball on 3rd down there, right? Run the ball, and then you have the timeout if you don't get the first down, and it looked like they were defending the pass there, New England. They could have maybe ran for the first down there. But even that 4th down call, maybe you throw deep on 3rd down. I wouldn't even be critical of that, but you don't make that you don't call that play on 4th and 2. Live to fight another day.
This isn't Ben Roethlisberger to Antonio Brown catching it on the side of his head. Like, it's not a Hall of Famer to what should be a Hall of Famer if he wasn't screwed up here. This is Mitch Trubisky to Deontay Johnson. I get it. If it's one-on-one with George Pickens, maybe I understand it a little bit. But every team has rub routes. How is there not like a 5-yard rub route where you run somebody free like a Freiermuth or even a Hayward or even an Allen Robinson?
He was wide open.
Right. Like just toss him the ball. You had plenty of time. You didn't need to do that. All you needed was a field goal to get into overtime.
I thought the Steelers, I think part of me thinks the Steelers, forced that thinking they would get a makeup call in the false start. That's what I think, but they didn't. So let's go out to Brad and Brookline.
You're going deep.
I'm going deep on that one because Johnson stood up and was looking for that flag. Hey, Brad, what's up?
Well, first off, you can't review every play. I mean, the games will be too long.
I get that, but critical plays like this. I mean, I'm not even saying challenges. This is a critical, game-changing kind of play.
All right,
there needs to be a booth review under 5 minutes or whatever it is.
All right.
I'm with you, Brad. I'm with you.
Richie, you can't. I mean, change is needed. I mean, you're acting like you can't, Tomlin. All the great coaches have a
shelf life. I did say that at the beginning of the show, Brad. I said it might be good for both sides.
Well, you're trying to compare him to Jamie Dixon. Come on.
Well, I used that analogy, and I think actually it's a good analogy, Jeff. I mean, the Pitt was in the same situation as the Steelers were. You keep winning. You're an average team. Call it like it is. I mean, you're above average.
Now, I appreciate what you're saying, but, they moved to the ACC. Jamie didn't like coaching in the ACC. He didn't like that recruiting base. I think it was the perfect time for him to leave. But I get what you're saying. I mean, if you bring in a Kevin Stallings and it just falls apart, although actually maybe what they need to do is have a horrible coach that it really falls apart and you get a couple of years of really high first-round draft picks. I think that's what probably turns around more than any coach that could get you to like 10 or 11 wins next year.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, you got to be bad before you can be really good sometimes. Let's go out to Jerry in Hempfield. How you doing, Jerry?
I would, if I was Mason Rudolph, the first thing I would do is fire my agent and tell Mike Tomlin, since I'm not getting a chance, I want a release, and I would call the Jets up who need a quarterback, or I'd call New England up and get a quarterback.
You know what, Jerry? He had an entire offseason to go find another team, and no one wanted him. I think he's lucky to be back here. This is a guy that was booed. I don't know if he was ever given a fair shake. I agree with that, but he's not the answer either. They don't have the guy that they need to lead this team to the promised land.
Yeah, well said, Richie. I mean, listen, I like Mason the human. I think he seems like a decent guy. But think about where the Steelers are, where the fans in unison are screaming for Mason Rudolph to be their quarterback. I mean,
honestly, I'd rather see Trace McSorley. At least he's an unknown.
No.
Hey, look, I'm making a stretch here. I know, but I mean, We know what Mason Rudolph can do. So I just think the Steelers are in a tough situation. Tough situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the one thing Mason would do is he would probably go back that first pass and chuck one up, and like he did with James Washington at Oklahoma State, let George Pickens go and get it.
Yeah, maybe you need something like that. I don't know if Trubisky has a short leash. I would hope so, because this Indianapolis game is no question a must-win. They lose that game, season's over. All right, we got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls coming up next. Stay right there.